Hello, my name is Orange, and welcome once again to Age of Wonders Planetfall, or I guess to be more precise, the Age of Wonders Planetfall Tyrannosaurus update. Patch notes, or update notes. Tom will seem pretty emphatic that it was an update, or update notes, so I guess I'll go with update notes. But I haven't had a chance to make a video in a while. I've had some other like real life stuff that's kept me very busy. Um, but some of that's gone away a little bit. And now that Tyrannosaurus is out, I see this as a great chance to kind of come back and start making a couple more videos again. Still with kind of the perspective of I'm going to assume the people that come that care enough to watch these videos already have the basics down. They know how units work. They've started to explore a little bit the game concepts and stuff. And what you're going to be looking for from me is the perspective of someone who's got 400 to 500 hours of of the game, mostly as multiplayer, mostly in live, 1v1 or 2v2. So uh, I know a little more about how some of the mechanics work, I and kind of the ways to approach the game from that next level of okay, well, what's really good, what's not so good, why are those things good, why are those things bad. I expect that I'll probably, after I talk about the update here, my next couple of videos are probably going to kind of be rehashes of some of the ones I previously done between Tyrannosaurus and Stegosaurus, which I never got a chance to talk about at all. We've got new secret tech, mini game mechanics have changed drastically. Some of the basic, what do you do the first 5 turns, some of just the raw mechanic stuff. I should go over again because it's different now and there's new considerations. So hopefully I'll get a little more continue to get more games in, and can relay some of that information from some of the feedback that I was getting way back when I was trying to make consistent videos before real life got in the way. I'm not necessarily going to make shorter videos. I don't care how long they are. I figure if you come here and you're looking for stuff, then you're a big enough nerd that you'll listen to all of it probably. Once it gets that far, what I will try to do better at is to separate topics a little better. As far as if I make a video about morale, it's just gonna be about morale, and I won't also then pull in some other stuff because I want to make the video be at least a certain amount of length. So I still won't care about length as far as if it goes too long or too short necessarily, but well, I used to care about too short. I won't too short anymore, but I'll keep it a little more topic focused so that anybody that does come here and is looking for one particular thing can look at that one particular thing and then not have to try to dig through an hour of video to find that one thing. But moving on, that's not the point of this video. The point of this video is the T-Rex update. And what I'm going to try to do here is I'm not going to go through line by line. There's 20 some pages of stuff here, so that's just not practical. It's not going to happen. I'm also not necessarily going to go from beginning to end in order, because if you wanted to do that, you can read it yourself. What I'm going to try to do is kind of pull out some context here, especially when I get to the races and secret text. Those will kind of go, in order because it makes more sense with the way that part of the update notes are built. But for a lot of the update notes, there's things that relate to each other that are not necessarily next to each other in the notes. And I've spent some time, because I'm competitive and because I enjoy it, I've actually made some side notes here where as I've noticed stuff, both from my play experience to date and from reading the notes, making notes on the notes, there's some things that are not necessarily obvious when you read through them that I'm hopefully going to be able to pull out and let people know about as I go through here. So I will be doing some find on the page, jumping around a little bit, especially towards the beginning here as I talk about the bigger topics. Once I get to the races and stuff, we'll switch out a little bit, and I'll go a little more point by point, try to summarize after all the races, where do you think the races sit now, summarize after the secret text, where do you think the secret text sit now. I'll go as fast as I can, but it's a really big update. So I'm sure this is going to be, even as I was saying, I don't care about length. This is going to be long, I think, even by my standards. But nothing for it but to go into it. So I'm going to start out with kind of just some general, the stuff I don't care about. because it's a little more single player focused, or I just don't think it's going to have a big effect. There's only 2 or 3 things here. First off, the very first thing they talk about, game intensity controls. I'm glad it's something they've added. I think it's good. I can see how in some multiplayer games people may want to tune a little bit of what the threats will be. Largely though, I don't think it's a huge deal. I think for the most part, the games I play and many of the games, even some of the other discords and whatnot that I see and hear people that also play a lot in multiplayer, I don't expect that many things will change as far as game intensity. Like game intensity won't matter all that much. Most people are going to play effectively what used to be low and is now easy, whatever. The settings that people really play with, they're going to continue to play with what they've been doing. So not a big deal. The diplomacy, all these diplomacy changes, sure, I'm glad that they were making those changes to try to help the single player guys out. I will never care. Ditto for the AI. All the strategic level AI doesn't matter. I don't care. There's been some UI stuff, some map visual stuff, quality of life interface stuff. Again, I'm glad that they're doing it. It certainly makes the game more readable, which is always a good thing. But I would probably not have noticed even if they hadn't made the change. I'm not the sort of person that needed that change to increase my enjoyment of the game. So again, glad it's done. Not a huge deal to me. Finally, ship. They continue to buff ships. Ships are just bad because you can't take a city with a ship. So okay, you can keep buffing them, Triumph, but I don't know if you're ever going to reach a point when people really are going to want to build ships. They never really did with Age of Wonders 3 either. It's just the way how that mechanic works and how the game is designed. It's really hard to make it plausible to have a unit that only works on 10%, 20% of the map, and can't win you the game because you can't take a capital with it. So I just don't think ships will ever really be a big factor. So that's getting those out of the way. Let's talk about, I'm going to kind of split out. I'll talk about economy, I'll talk about some tech stuff, strategic, tactical, and then go into the races. So economy, obviously, it's the big flight highlight of what TUX is offering, and I gotta say, I love it. It's amazing. It's hard to put in writing on the page, and it's hard to talk about, just verbally as well. But once you get in and start playing the game, especially if you had experience and before the patch, it feels very different. It feels so much smoother. I think it's great. The the fact that you actually have to care where you settle now, because it drastically affects what a city will be able to do. Like it used to just be you look for Cosmite if you like Cosmite was the only thing you really were going for when you built a city. That was it, literally it. After that, if you could get a landmark, that's fine. But really, it was just, is there a Cosmite node? And then anything else, who cares? Because it doesn't matter what the sectors offered you. Now, you can't just do that. I mean, Cosmite is still something that you really are looking towards. Like it's a huge factor in where you settle, but you really have to be using some of those. Like you want to zoom out, look at the economy map mode, and get an idea of okay, where I settle this city. What is it going to give me? Am I going to be able to get some energy sectors out of it? Is it going to be a food sector and then just ramp up a lot quicker? It matters a lot. And I like that. I think it's good. I think I have no question that it's an upgrade to the game. That those things actually matter now. So, it's the biggest part of this update, and thankfully they knocked it out of the park. It's awesome. Really changes. It's even in just the 4 or 5 games or 3, 4, 5, whatever it's been games I've played since TX came out. It's great. So it's changed how I play. I am sure it will continue to change how I play and how others play once people get more experience with it. Some of the other tweaks that are related to that, they nerfed orbital relay sectors a little bit. They did some changes to the water sector, if I can find it. I don't remember what it's called. Let's just look for sector. Yeah, naval training stuff got changed. I know it's here. They increased the resource limit a little bit, but I think this is actually net less good because when you compare that to what your other sectors are giving you, um, I didn't write down the exact numbers, but I had written down that I thought coastal sectors were nerfed. So even though this looks like it's going up, I think the net is actually to their disadvantage. So we'll see. Neither one I think is a huge deal between orbital relay sectors or water sectors. I don't. The new sectors seem to be like just the basic sectors seem to be well powerful enough and give you and let you build out enough towards what you want that I don't think that the more generalist sectors are going to give you enough power to go for, especially since you have to tech into them. Maybe the water one is different. I'm not sure. I haven't tried it yet. But that's again going to always be kind of a limited case as well. You have to start where you can get a coastal sector anyway. So I don't think either one of those is a huge deal. Happiness events. So there's been a couple things that have changed here with happiness. One is that you start with extra happiness. You start with happiness slots. You have a little more happiness income early on, and then they changed happiness events. I know a couple people that have tried to make happiness event builds work. I never quite thought it was there. I didn't think it was good enough to be a practical strategy. But I don't know the numbers if it's better or worse. It's certainly less fiddly because now instead of it's boosting the percentage for the upcoming turn where you needed to switch all your population, now you're just going to get what you get. So if you get more happiness, you just get more of those events. On the flip side, now you can get Cosmetic influence, which is massive deal. That's so good. So I think happiness is probably a net buff. Regardless of what these numbers are, the fact that this line exists means that happiness has probably been net buffed. And that going for a more happiness build with more pops dedicated to happiness is powerful. We'll see. I'm not 100% sure on that because again, it's still early days yet. We have had less than a week to play with it, but that's not something I want to get dropped. Again, people often forget about happiness and morale. They both matter a lot. So I will be talking about both happiness and morale in this video because changes have been made to both that are significant. Those were kind of little changes at my side notes because for some reason I did that before I wanted to talk about the racial scouting bonuses, which, once again, Triumph knocking out of the park. These are all awesome. They're all strong in their own ways. Obviously, some are better than others, but they're all good. Everyone wants what these are offering, and each one of them is doing a very good job of being tailored to the flavor of the race and kind of what the race would want to do to begin with. Right? So there is, I mean, the obvious winner here is Kirko, starting with 2 free units, even if they're kind of, tier 0.75 or maybe pushing to tier 1 units. Just starting with 2 extra units is so good. And then 25% reduction on upkeep on pretty much every unit you're likely to build is also a massive deal for Kirko. So their 2 buffs, I think, are the best. But they're not so far the best that the other ones look bad in comparison. After Kirko, Syndicate one is quietly really strong. The 25 extra influence means that you can buy your city as early as turn 2 or 3, I think, if you get lucky. I know you can do it at turn 2. I'm not sure about turn 3. No, I'm sorry. I know you can do it at turn 3. I'm not sure about turn 2. But you can also do stuff like buy your opponent's city before they could possibly have enough influence to buy it themselves, which is delightfully dickish and totally fits what the Syndicate wants to do. The Doctrine slot's great too. Amazon's is really good. Again, we'll get to it eventually, but this random animal unit is a powerhouse monster to start with, and it really helps the early clearing. Having tested a little bit, this line doesn't tell you how much food you get. It's got to be something like 4 or 5 food per tier of animal you kill, which is significant. It really gives you that kickstart early on of growth. And it lets Amazons really kind of ignore food in a lot of ways, which gives them strength in the even though this seems like it's a weak long-term strength, because you can ignore food early a little more than anybody else. That means that they can be ramping up the rest of their economy to do other things a lot quicker. So the Amazon one is again quite strong, upper half I think for me. Um, Vanguard is good. Starting with 1 rank effectively means that you get another 10 to 15% hit points on every one of your units. Technically, I guess if everything gets to prime, the Amazon or the Vanguard boost isn't giving you anything, but in practice, it's powerful. It's good. I mean, just like many Vanguard things, it's quietly very good, but not flashy about it. Um, the weaker ones, I think, are Devourer, but Devourer start with prospectors and prospecting, so I think that was probably intended. 150 energy is awesome. I mean, that's just good. It's not broken good, but it that might be the strongest short-term boost that's not starting with a unit. The 15% discount for rushing is not as good. That's clearly the weakest long-term bonus, but it's still good. I mean, again, it has to be good. It's a bonus, but um, for what the stuff Devour like to do, getting that discount can be very helpful for them, and it definitely comes up in real games. I tried one Devour game. I'm like, yeah, I didn't think it would help, but it does help. It is good. So assembly. So assembly our mix. This starting with 20 extra Cosmite is such an important resource that starting with it is phenomenal. The problem is that starting with it on turn 0 doesn't give you anything. Like that 20 Cosmite you'll never use until, I don't know, turn 15, turn 20. So it's not as an immediate of a benefit as what some of the other guys get, which hurts them. On the flip side, this line, ignoring the modded unit penalty, is really, really good. Like it doesn't just having it written on the page doesn't describe how good it can be. Because you just I don't know how it is for classic turns, but in simultaneous turns you just don't ever have to run one with mods until you meet somebody. So people don't know what it is you're going for. And even if you get to the point of the game where, hey, you've got your main army modded up, if you have to bring in some emergency units or something, you can bring in a whole bunch of scouts and mod them the second they get there, and just really get an extra power boost from some of those emergency moves you have to make sometimes. It just really accelerates everything to not have to wait about that one turn, and it's very good. For anybody that reads that and doesn't think it's good, it's good. I don't know in single player, but in multiplayer, this is probably the second best after Kyoko. So again, Kyoko as usual kind of got the best of everything, but all of these bonuses are good. Nobody really got skunked. Assemblies are weird, but I think they're very solid. I haven't tested it personally. I'm not a big assembly player, but the assembly players I do talk to are happy with them. So racial starting bonuses, I love it. Great idea, and really helping out. I don't have it in my side notes here, but I'll talk about it now. Everybody's also starting with a secret tech unit, which is great. Well, it's for multiplayer, it's mixed. I guess for single player, it is nice to just get that extra little boost. But for multiplayer, I mean, it's going to help rushes, but it also helps people counter the rush because you start with a stronger unit. I think it's fine. I mean, it certainly helps. It helps everybody feel a little more unique when you first start out of. It's not just what your race gives you. You also have what your secret tech gives you. So I think it's good. I'm fine with it. As with many things in this update, almost across the board, I'm either it's very good or I have no issue with it. There's almost nothing that they've done that I think shouldn't have happened. So starting with the Syndicate unit again, a thing that happens, and I like it. Doctrines. This is hiding. I'm gonna try to find it, but I'm probably going to not be able to. Doctrine. Oh no, it's right here. Cost for triggering doctrines has been reduced. Easy line to miss. Huge impact. Starting all, I think it's all doctrines, but certainly the earlier doctrines, I think are 50% cheaper. I don't remember what they actually were to begin with, but now they're 50 energy, and that's cheap enough that it's really practical and good. Combined with some of the other doctrine changes, which I'll get to in a bit. To go for early doctrines, and sometimes even multiple early doctrines, or the second level tech doctrines. So it's, again, I wanted to pull this line out particularly because it's easy to miss and not read what it's saying. But it's having for my games already, it's had a significant impact on just the way I plan out to do things. Again, when combined with some of the other doctrine changes, and the way the tech tree is laid out, which I will talk about in probably about 5 minutes after I talk about colonizers. Because this is another one people might miss. Colonizers are 10 cosmite cheaper. For multiplayer, I haven't had it feel like it's a huge difference. I'm sure it's having an impact because they still are scaling, right? So each additional colonizer is adding more energy and cosmite, but it is letting you. It's making it feel to me, and maybe this is just because I'm looking for it and it's not really making a big difference. But to me, it's feeling like by the time you reach the mid game, you have a little bit more cosmite, so you have a little more flexibility to mod stuff out. I don't have an issue with this change. I still like their scaling colonizers. I think it's necessary for the health of the game, both in single player and multiplayer. And but on the flip side of that, I think this slight cosmite reduction is probably making it a little more smooth and a little more, I don't know, I can't say balanced because I don't think it was unbalanced the way it was, but it gives people a little more flexibility, and it's devaluing cosmite a little bit, which is good because cosmite's so necessary for what you want to do in the game that it's nice to have a little more breathing space from somewhere. In that same vein, replace. Oh, where did it go? When you replace mods, no, they must not have used the word replace. When you swap out mods, you don't lose the cosmite from doing that. I will find it. Oh, raising gives stuff. That's really good. Here we go. When replacing a unit mod, the complete cosmite cost is subtracted from the cosmite cost. So again, in that same vein as far, it was only 2 lines down. In the same vein of giving a little bit of places where cosmite isn't, you're not so strained for cosmite. This rarely comes up in multiplayer. Typically, you research the mods you want, then only put those mods on, so you don't do a whole ton of replacing mods. It does come into play eventually, so it'll help in those cases. Again, I think it's a net positive for the game. Is that it for economy? Yes, I think so. So let's go into techs where they don't use the word connection. I wrote down connection, but there's new tech lines in the society tree between different lines. They use the word upgrade. Oh, unlock. That's what it was. Unlock. Yep. So, economy research. I'm not going to pull up exactly what it looks like now, but the point is that these additional lines in the tech tree that largely are going to and from the middle line that has all your bulk economy techs, and then the outer lines, the one on the top that is all your doctrines, and then the one on the bottom that's all your it doesn't go to operations or the operational effectiveness boost. It only goes to the covert operations. So it gives you a little more flexibility. which for the society tree I think was really necessary. For the military tree, for the military tech tree overall, you don't need as many. You don't really need those connections because every mod, like all the offensive mods, even if they're not all doing the same thing, but they're still boosting the same part of what you want, right? So a laser mod that boosts your damage is not super different from, say, a Promethean mod that's boosting your damage, right? They're still doing a similar thing, even if the actual thing is quite different. You're still getting a boost to your unit effectiveness, and any way you do that could potentially be viable. In the society tree, what you're doing in any given tech is very different, right? You're not getting a tech that's, oh, do I boost my damage by 10% plus do something, or another tech that's boost damage 10% plus do a different thing. No, in the society tech, you're choosing between, do I get a tech that gives me more Cosmite, or do I get a tech that gives me more operation points, or do I get a tech that gives me a doctrine? Like it's very you can't replace any one tech with another tech, even as a bad replacement. You just can't do it. So um, because of that, anything in the society tree that is a want and not a need just gets skipped, and it got especially worse because you have to go so deep down some of these trees to get stuff. Right? You're never gonna see like the tier 6 or tier 7 doctrine sort of stuff, because to get there you have to research all the previous stuff. But if you're doing that, that means you're not getting your you're not getting your movement bonuses, you're not getting your Cosmite income, you're not getting your operations boosts, you're not getting your, I mean, even just before T-Rex, you wouldn't even get the doctrine slots to use those doctrines from doing that. So in the society tree, all these, like, adding these connections, I think was very important for the game, because now you can still get the stuff you need and then not be so far away to aim for something you might just want, right? So if typically everybody, you have to get a colonizer, and then you have to go through at least one at this, and now with some of the changes, maybe two or three of the um, sector upgrade techs, and then probably go for the Cosmite boost. But then after that, do you want a tier 1 doctrine? But you're not that far away from getting some of the deeper doctrines at that point, or you can swap into Covert Ops. So you're not excluding, like, your options are just way wider in the society tree now, which, again, I don't know if that always came out in single player, because in single player, like, you just have so much time, you can get whatever you want. But in multiplayer, when you really had to make the hard decisions, it ended up with the society tree. Like 90 to 95% of the games, I knew exactly what I was going to do in the society tree before I even started. The only difference is there were certain builds that you'd want to maybe get the tier 1 doctrine because it was so good. And then other than that, every time it's all the same. Um, and from, again, my limited experience so far, that's not necessarily true anymore. You definitely still have a couple things that you really need early, but um, there's way more space to be experimental on the society tree now, which I think is great. As part of that operational effectiveness, each individual tech has become more powerful, so you don't need to waste as much time going down that line. They've taken some of the power of that, put it into Covert Operations, which certainly needed it. They've also just made well, I'll get to that in a second, but they made Covert Operations just cheaper in general. I still don't think it's a good tree. I just don't think that your reward, like what you get from it, is viable enough to justify the tech time. But they've started. It's getting there. And I haven't tested it, so I can't say that with certainty. It's maybe someone will come back and prove me wrong. I would love to be proved wrong. I would love if Covert Operations was great, but um, I like that they've done that. Again, they've also, you get doctrine slots from the doctrine trees now. You don't have to go way down doctrines and then way down another separate tree just to be able to use those doctrines. You can use more doctrines if you go down both trees, but you're not totally locked out of using your new toys if if you just went down the doctrine tree. So those are all great changes. The final one I really want to point out from this section, since I'm here, I'm so glad they did this. I never understood why they moved the colony infrastructure tech cheaper to begin with in the first place. Because in multiplayer it's so broken, and it's still probably too good. But at least now it's not a tech that you were going for anyways because you wanted the Cosmite, and you don't get it at a tier 3 tech. Now you have to go all the way to tier 5. Um, and I noticed this. It's actually, this is missing out. This tech is more expensive than the other two techs at its tier as well. So it's an expensive tech besides. And you're only getting the colony infrastructure movement, and then a couple of the other exploitation of the other terrain movements. But it's not like just you're gonna get this on your way towards getting something you wanted anyways. Now you have to make a real decision on if you think that internal extra movement is worth it. The answer is it almost always is, but now you have to commit, and it's not quite so idiot powerful. So this is a very good change. I love it. I still hate that it exists in the game, and I would kill it if I could, but I don't think that's ever going to happen because I know people that play longer games than me complain as much as I do that they takes too long to move across their stuff. I thought that getting the teleporter sectors would fix that problem, but hey, what do I know? Anyways, they made that change. That change was great. I love it. There is one more. If I could spell. No, why can't? 1S2R. God, I can't spell today. Resurrect is twice as expensive. Very good. Again, for single player, I bet it rarely mattered. In multiplayer, it definitely mattered because you would have a big fight, your heroes would die, and you would get both of them back instantly. Like, you could get two heroes back the same turn, like quicker than you can get your main hero back, and it's just like, yeah, dumb. So I like that they made it more expensive. I still would like to see some sort of a cooldown on how quickly you could get a hero back, but having it be literally twice as much operation points is going a long way towards that. So I'm glad that this change has been made. Anything else in the tech line? I'll go to Covert Operations again, just to say, in general, everything's been moved down. All these operations, like the actual operations themselves, have been made better. Deploy Monitor actually got probably net nerfed a little bit, which is also good, but ignoring Deploy Monitor, as I never saw it as a Covert Operations. All these other ones, I just don't think they're going to be good enough. They moved Energy Siphon way down, which needed to happen because it was the only good one, and you could get it immediately. So at least now, for the good one, you have to go find it, and have way more of a commitment to get there. And there's a new Cosmite one as well, right? Yeah. You can steal Cosmite. That comes really, really late, but maybe in some weird multiplayer game someone will get there. I just don't think that overall the rewards in the Covert Operations tree are good enough to justify going down it. But they definitely are buffing it. Like, they're buffing something that needs it. If it's enough, I don't know, but it's a good change to be making. I think that's it for the techs. Which means on the strategic map level, and I think my notes, I missed a couple things that I wanted to talk about. Hopefully I catch them as we get there. But exploration sites are a new strategic map thing. I have noticed the change, certainly, in my multiplayer games. They're actually very well defended. They're probably more well defended than mini landmarks, which means I don't know how big of a difference the exploration sites will end up making. I think if you get a chance to clear one and not lose much, go for it. Often I think you won't be in that position and it just won't get cleared. So I have no qualms with this change because I actually thought that the visit sites were not optimal, like not a great thing to have in the game. So I'm okay with them removing them and making them these exploration sites, even if I don't play with them all that much, or if they never come into my games all that much, I think it's a net win overall. So it's fine. Um, Another little hidden line that people may not notice: dwellings now give Cosmetic influence income. They were already very good, and now they're also a Cosmite node and an influence booster. So I go for dwellings if you can. that's that's pretty nuts. Um, it's I don't think it's a problem, but it's strong. It's very strong to get a dwelling now. Um, what was the next one? Oh, I think it's gonna be under turret. Yep. So previously in the game, if you lost a city and tried to get it back in a turn or two, that city you just lost that had turrets in it, those turrets would be firing against you, which flavor-wise, I don't know if that really makes sense, and it certainly didn't feel good. So they've now disabled that until the colony is actually absorbed, and I like that. Oh no, actually it's just gone. Yeah, you just lose them when it gets absorbed. So it makes it a lot easier to recapture something if you lost it. Often, if you lose something, you've lost the game anyways, but I'm all for anything that gives you a little bit more of a chance to counter somebody if you're on the back foot. So that seems great. Capital colonies now have a +1 to the garrison. That I think would help. It's going to help against the sort of just throw everything at somebody tactics, which, given that generally armies are stronger, we'll talk. Well, I think I talked about secret tech units. Generally, now that armies are stronger to begin with, and because I think the economy is a little faster, so you're going to get more armies. Having that little bit extra defense, I think, is good. I'm glad that that's been put in there now. It also helps that just that for your capital that you're not gonna lose it to something dumb like Marauders on turn 12 when your hero stack is elsewhere. So um, that's very good. Moving on. Well, let's go to the units first. Tier 1. All units are slightly cheaper in energy. I'm. This is the one thing I think that I'm gonna point to and say I don't know why. I don't think it was necessary. Having played with it a little bit, I haven't felt a huge difference though. It hasn't been like you still have to spend the production, so it hasn't really made early game armies all that much scarier as far as I can tell. But and again, especially because it excludes scouts. But I just don't know why it's in there. So if it's not really changing anything, I guess I'm not going to complain about it. And the rest of this update is so phenomenal that I don't want to complain about anything if I can avoid it. But it's that's kind of the one that I went like I don't know why. Um, One thing that I want to discuss on the strategic level that people may not have noticed if you're not like me and making notes on the side because I'm a nerd. They've done a general rebalance to all the strategic map summons. So some of the ones that were coming in late and kind of sucked have gotten boosted up, but the ones that I think is more important is I think for the most part it's not considered a summon. Oh, the language is not summon. What is it called? Well, let's do operation. Because that'll pull it up. All of the early game summons they now cost more operations points, and it's pretty much standardized across the board. I think now. I think emergence costs 7, but I think everything else is up to 8. And I'm pretty sure this one's actually backwards. I think it went from 4 and 40 to 8 and 60. I have to double check. I don't have the specifics in my notes, but I'm pretty sure every summon other than the emergent, is now standardized to cost 8 operations points. I don't know if the energy is standardized, but yeah, operations from 6 to 8, operations from 6 to 8, and I think again the owl is backwards. I think it also went up to 8. So that's a big deal. It's gonna slow down some of the summon rush builds, which were really good because summoning lets you quote unquote build a unit without having to go through the effort of building the unit. You're still spending a resource to get it, but if two players are both trying to rush and one player can only have the units that they build from their 2 or 3 cities, or let's say 3, and the other player can build from 3 cities and be summoning, the one that's summoning will just get more units quicker and rush better. So nerfing that summon ability a little bit, I think was good. Some of these were not all those summons were equally strong, but I like that they're trying to balance it based off of the energy cost side and not so much on the how fast you can summon it side, because just at some point getting any unit is really breaking, is that game breaking for the rushing player. So that's kind of one of those little hidden ones I wanted to try to pull out, because I think it matters a lot. Um, there's other strategic map stuff that I don't have in my notes that I had saw before that I wanted to talk about, and I can't remember what it was. I'm only going to spend about 30 seconds trying to look for it before I just have to move on. Raising, right, that's it. Raising is a thing now, which I haven't tested. There are many games where you do end up raising if you ever play a game that both players, for whatever reason, are willing to play out to the end, as opposed to just after the first fight or two, you kind of figure who's gonna win. But you can raising does actually matter, and especially now that the colony infrastructure got moved back again, and you can actually start having people have to decide where they're going to be in their empire and not cover the entire thing all at once. Um, I suspect that raising may actually be a real thing. I don't know, because again, I haven't had the chance to really experiment with it too much. But I don't want it to get lost as far as this may have an impact, and a significant one at that. Um, so that's all the strategic stuff. Let's go into tactical. Some of this is going to just be general, it's going to be general battle stuff, but small target. Just in general, evasion has been hit a couple times. Small target isn't as good. It got cut in half. And then in addition, they both nerfed evasion and buffed melee for, I don't know, the third or fourth time, by making melee effects just flat out ignore evasion across the board. I actually hadn't realized that melee attacks could ignore evasion. I'm not sure what stuff did. I'm sure it existed and I just never noticed it. But knowing now that melee is the counter to evasion is a big deal. And I'm all for more melee buffs. I thought melee was pretty competitive at release, and the fact that they keep making melee units better and better and better in these little weird ways is great. I like hitting people in the face instead of shooting them from a million miles away. So I am all for the melee buffs. Um, the other, yeah, let's go, since it's here. Let's talk about morale. Um, Crits didn't get changed, but fumbles did, and I I agree with the change. I think. I agree with the concept of the change. I'm not sold on the numbers, but I know, I see why they did it. A crit takes you from full damage to 150%, so it's a 50% boost. Whereas a fumble was all or nothing, right? If you hit a fumble, no damage, or if you rolled a fumble, no damage. If you didn't, full damage. Um, Building it into the grazing system a little bit to make it, kind of just be that half step down. Really, it obviously makes fumbles weaker. It cuts their effectiveness in half, and they only got 5% on the chance back on the other end. Now, there's other caveats to that, which we'll talk to for side number in particular, but I get why they made it not be quite so stark of a difference of if you rolled a fumble or not, and to make fumbles be less polarizing. So I agree with that change. Do I think that some of these fumble chances could maybe have been a little higher? Yeah, probably. But again, once I talk, like, I'm not fired up about it. I think it's still competitive enough. And as we'll look at with Sinumbo, who are the guys that really care about it, some other things have been changed that will end up still making fumbles powerful for the people that are trying to use fumbles. So it is a important change that's easy to miss that people might just kind of glance over and not want to consider, but it matters. And it's a good change. It's a healthy change, I think. Oh, I forgot to talk about this one, so I'll talk about it now. This is a strategic change, or maybe even economy change. I didn't care about, but a couple of my buddies that I play with are a little fired up about it. Um, where NPC factions don't give you quests quite as often, that's a nerf to being nice to the NPCs because you need to do quests to get resources from them and to get more relations with them, so that you can start getting a return on your investment. And so this extra turn doesn't sound like a lot, but well, this extra turn, and then it also builds in. There's another one for faction. Oh, let's actually look for delay. Um, yeah, it's the very next line. Duh. Um, these two combined really mean that playing a friendly game, you've had a pretty significant nerf over time as far as what you can expect your return to be. And as it is already, like in before T-Rex, it already was probably stronger to go to war with NPCs as opposed to being at peace. Just because if you go to war with an NPC, you get your return immediately. Whereas if you're at peace with the NPC, it takes, I don't know, dozens of turns before you start getting a net return on that investment of being nice with them. And you have opportunity cost of that very first landmark. Most of the time, you'd really, really like it. And yeah, it's a how it, like it's still a competitive choice to go either way. Even with this change, I'm pretty sure that um, if you do play nice with the NPC, that's not game losing. It just means that you have to consciously make that decision, and you'd rather default to going to war. But um, that balance it's leaning one way. They tweaked it to lean further that way, um, which is a little unfortunate. Maybe they'll eventually bring it back if someone brings it to their attention. I don't know, but that's that's another one that again I wanted to pull out because that may not be obvious. And hopefully I haven't talked about it already. I've talked about a lot of stuff. So, um, going back to tactical, we talked about fumbles and grazes. Yada yada yada. Right. Tactical operations. Tactical. Where is it? This line is a very cool line that is probably a lot weaker than you would think. Having every tactical operation that was expensive be slightly less expensive is really nice. It's very cool. I like it. Having played with it a little bit, it's the cheap operations are still so damn cost effective, that it, this change helps, but I don't know if it's really not going to make the expensive stuff be super worth it. Um, I'm glad they did it. I like that this line is here in these patch notes. And obviously they did a whole bunch of other tweaks, right? So they balanced some by not making them cheaper. They did some actual line by line ones. There's a whole bunch that are actually in each individual race and secret tech as well. It's very obvious that they did a full pass on all the tactical operations, and for the ones that I've been looking at, for the most part, I fully agree with. At least that it was changed, even if the exact numbers may not quite be what I would have wanted. I think the stuff that was changed was usually the good stuff. The too good stuff got worse, and the bad stuff got better. So, the fact that they did that pass is great. As part of this, hey, everything is cheaper as well. I will, since I'm here, I will make one. I'll try not to do too much of this, but specifically for my boy Aeon Flux Charge, it's no longer just strictly a operation that hurts yourself when you cast it. You can no longer use an operation that says, hey, stun your unit a sixth of the time. Oh no, half of the time, right? Yeah, because whatever. Either way, you can't stun yourself. And it's just actually a good operation now, so thank God for that. So yeah, the Operations Cheaper is very nice. Not as powerful, I have found in practice, as it looked on paper. As another just general blanket statement, many of the late game, many of the tier 4 racial units and the second level tier 3 units seem to have been tweaked upward across the board. These are all units that I rarely to never see in multiplayer, so I can't comment too much on it, other than to say I think that if anybody does try to get to those units, they should certainly be rewarded for doing so, and I have no issue with the fact that all these units look to have been generally tweaked up. And will continue to have no issue with it until they become broken overpowered, upon which I will complain endlessly. So none of it looks like it's at that point, so I'm fully behind all that stuff. The last one I want to pull out as something that maybe people wouldn't notice is, this line notwithstanding, is there are a lot of lines that read this, where something no longer gives psionic resistance. A lot of lines that read that. Here's remove psionic resistance, remove psionic resistance, change from psionic resistance to +1 resist all. So this is something that you wouldn't notice unless you ever tried to do something like non-psi weapon psi number or Celestian. There were a lot of ways to get psionic resistance in the game, and usually at numbers that were high enough that it really just effectively removed psi. And psi damage has many advantages, and I still think it's broken. Just some of the ways it works it doesn't work. But in those cases where you don't have access to psi mods, psi actually kind of sucks. Not always. I mean, you're still getting the armor bypass, but usually you've traded a little bit of damage to get that armor bypass. There are certain races that never use armor to begin with, so you're not getting any help from that armor bypass. And for the non-psi races, it's often very difficult to boost the psi damage at all. There's not a lot of just generic, hey, plus 20% damage that works for psi attacks. In practice, I have found. And there are many inflicts that you really want to have land that you can't land because that psi resist is there. So it looks to me like they made an effort to kind of cut most of that psi resist. I don't think it's everything. I didn't go and look and check every single one because that's hard to do. Because you have to know what they were ahead of time, really. But given how many places they've removed it, I'd say pretty much across the board, I'd say they try to cut it out. Which they've consistently been nerfing all of that one damage channel resistances everywhere. Again, they nerfed the Amazon ones again for the second or third time already, and a couple other places they've done it as well. So I have no issue with it, but it is a thing that people should be aware of if you didn't notice it as you're reading through the notes, that in general, psi damage, not psi weapons, but psi damage got buffed because there's less ways to resist it. Which, again, interesting. So that kind of was the last general overall thing I wanted to talk about. I think before, cheat detection system. I've never played against anybody that was cheating, so it doesn't matter for me, but I guess I can discuss it since I happen to see the words cheat detection. Again, as far as these big global changes, very little here I disagree with. Most of it is just strictly amazing, awesome. And now I will move on to the individual races, and then the individual secret texts. I will try not to go through every little bit and do more of a summary as I can. So Amazons, I love it. I love the Amazons to begin with. I looking at this long list of changes, and it's just so awesome. Um, for those people that played Age of Wonders 3 and know how Archdruids played, I mean, Amazons already were pretty obviously soft influenced in many ways by Archdruids, but what seems to be going on with some of the changes that they've pushed in this update is going even further that way into Archdruid. And I don't just mean like as far as, oh, hey, friendly with trees, like animals, stuff like that. I mean like mechanically what the Archdruid was, and what the Amazons are becoming. Where the Amazons, they now have some of these weird little summon things. They do some map, they do map terrain control stuff, and also notably, Amazons are rarely the best at anything, but they're often the second or third best at anything, right? They're not like Syndicate where they have just global map invisibility everywhere, but they have a lot of units that inherently have first invisibility. Um, they don't have like the crazy, I'm just going to spam you with cheap units like Hugo do, but they can get cheap units pretty quickly. They get regeneration, and they have a lot of stuff that they're kind of the second best at or the third best at. Even and to combine with that, they have a couple really obvious weaknesses. I mean, range, obviously. Oh, excuse me, range is the most obvious, but there's a couple other ones in there too. And they're kind of this. The strength is their flexibility, and this list of changes, I don't want to say that like, hey, Amazon were already super good and now they're super good. Like they got more better. What they've done is they've taken parts of Amazons that were maybe thematic but not practical, or parts that actually were not great, and brought all of it up. Amazons don't have a lot of bad choices anymore. You could do just a lot of really crazy weird stuff with them, which I love. I think it's great. And combined with that, the stuff that they're good at, they're usually not so good at that. You have to actually know what it is you're encountering and change on the fly and be flexible and use that flexibility to win. Often the Amazons are going to struggle sometimes to come in with a game plan and say, this is how I'm going to win, and win with that plan, because if the opponent has a plan that counters that, like, you're just screwed because your plan won't be so good to beat the hard counter. But anyways, back to what I'm discussing here is Amazons, now they can spam first, and I've played a couple games. I've played 2 or 3 games with them already, 2 games, and I've actually used Forest Genesis unironically, not as a meme, but actually as like, hey, I think this would be useful, and I love that. That's great. No one else can do that. Starting with the animal and these animals that you get and can evolve and stuff. That's awesome. I love it. Overall, again, very little of the Amazon has been strictly nerfed. They lost some of the stuff from their early mods, which hurts, but a lot of the things that were weaker or suboptimal have been brought up to be practical. And I think overall it's a slight boost. It has to be, but it's not crazy. It's not as bad as you would think. It's not like as much of a boost as you would imagine given how long and how much attention has been paid to them. I mean, again, I just love Amazon, so it's so great. Harrier, it got boosted. Pteranodon finally gets its 5 range, but man, they went above and beyond. They gave it 40 movement points too. Someday I need to try a Pteranodon build because a T3 unit with 40 movement points is so terrifying. Arboreans, no one's ever going to build. Pylons got a little better. That's good because they underperformed. Call of the Wild is actually worthwhile now. War Cry is worthwhile now. Advanced Instinct Controller, I think, is probably actually like there's situations now where it is better than I can't remember the other I can't remember the other one that gives you 10% evasion, but like it's a real decision now, I think. To losing the psionic resistance but gaining status effect was a net boon, even if they lost a bit on the morale end. But yeah, Amazons, I I have no qualms with the stuff that they got. Um, Everything gets force fast movement. That's a nice quality of life change. And then the final one I wanted to talk about because ecological warfare looks way stronger on paper than it is in practice. Like it's not bad. It can't be bad, but poison is a pretty weak inflict. Um, the damage over times are often kind of weak because any unit you're attacking, your preference would be to kill it before it can possibly do anything. So if you don't kill it and you let the damage over time do it, it still gets a full use of actions before it dies. So poison's not super great. You are playing more of the morale game, which is nice. Amazon's already, second best at everything. They're playing the morale game. They tend to have a lot more plus morale benefits than other players do. And being able to apply poison to be a minus morale will continue to give them that little hidden side benefit. But actually, the strong part of this doctrine is the 6 hit points per turn. Um, Either way, it's good. Like it's fine. And it's nice to have a combat and an economy choice at turn one, or at that first doctrine tech. But it's like when I first saw it, I was like, oh, it's gonna be so good, and it's not really. It's fine. Like I used it, but I don't feel that it's broken in any way or too good. They also lost their Arcadian terrain start, which is a probably to their benefit. Because of how sectors work now, starting with forests and Arcadian would mean that Amazons would pretty much be guaranteed to get locked into double food, double production, which on the one side is nice because you know what you're going to get. On the other side, you're never going to get energy, ever, as Amazons. And Amazons already had so many ways to get food that getting even more food is a really mixed bag for them. So losing the Arcadian terrain guaranteed start, the first time I played, I'm like, oh, this is going to not be good. The second time I played, I was glad for it because it meant I was able to get some energy from my capital. So it's not like it's worth commenting on. It changes how they play. I don't see it as either a strict upgrade or a strict downgrade. It's just different and different in a good way. I think that's healthy for them. Moving on to Assembly. Assembly got buffed pretty much across the board. I'm not sure if there's anything here I would consider a nerf at all. Technically the Scavenger one, but I really see that as a bug fix. There were ways that you could use Scavenger and the hero perk and really break the reward system of the game because of how the game was accounting for stuff. This has been known for a while if you talk to the right people. So I don't see this as a nerf. I see it as a bug fix, and I think pretty much everything else across the board here is at worst a rework and almost universally a buff. Inspectors were way below power for a scout. They're still going to be a little weak, I think, on the damage end, but the +1 vision range is really going to help the Assembly because they are one of the slowest starting races. Getting that little bit of extra vision is really a kick towards their early game, which they needed. Vopal snipers are no longer DPS gods, but they're pushed more towards being a crowd control support unit, which, given that they're listed as a support unit, I think is to the better. I still have no doubt, and in limited testing against it, it still seems like you can make them be a pretty good damage output unit, but they're harder to just be your solo carry now. Despite having just said that I didn't think damage over time effects were all that great, on the Electrocutioner, Electrified is pretty phenomenal. Because the Electrocutioner has an AoE way to apply it, which is very nice, and B, because Electrified is an accuracy boost and not just a morale hit. Morale is a relatively low impact thing to be applying. It takes time, whereas accuracy, the second you apply it, it's helping you out. Again, the Electrocutioner, this is the second or third time I think it's been tweaked upwards, so it didn't need a lot of a boost, but it got enough. It got a boost, and I think it's a good one to get. Reverse Engineer, I know the single player people are probably going to disagree with me on this, but in multiplayer, the reverse engineer is a terrible unit, and this rework has entirely changed how I see the reverse engineer. I haven't had a chance. Like I've played against it, not with it. I'm not an assembly guy, but I played against it, and it's really just feels like a lot healthier unit for the game. And to me, this isn't a rework. This is a net buff for the unit because it was so bad before. Now that it's actually workable, it's massive buff. The problem that the reverse engineer had, yes, it was an infinite value engine. The problem is all of its ability, like everything it could do with that infinite value, required a melee range ability, or a range one ability. And the second that you put this unit anywhere that your opponent can reach it, if you're playing against a human, he knows what it can do, so he's going to focus it and kill it. In practice, if you brought a reverse engineer into a fight, the reverse engineer would summon a construct and then sit in the back, hit defense mode, and do nothing for the rest of the fight until you either won it or lost it. The reverse engineer did very little to nothing to influence the outcome of the fight. It's like you bringing along a dead unit. Because even the construct it was weak enough that it's really just one or two actions blown to kill it. So not nothing, but not the sort of thing you're expecting to get from an entire T2 support unit. So having a change to this setup, the constructs are significantly better. Now you can reassemble, play up front, be a lot tankier about it. You can just really play a lot more aggressive with the reverse engineer, and it's ironically a little bit less of a priority target because it's not infinite value. So it's a lot more likely that you can play fast and loose with it, and it won't just explode. So I think this set of changes is very good for the reverse engineer. Lightning Rider got tweaked. Again, probably needed it. It's one of the few units in the games that can hit friendly fire, and like consistently hit friendly fire. Some other changes to some of the stuff. The Wrecker, good luck Wrecker. Although reassembly mod on the Wrecker is very nice. They gave some of that back for repurposed corpse here that they took out from the reverse engineer, so you can heal yourself by eating corpses. Okay, sure. I haven't seen it in use yet. I think from the guys I've talked to that, whatever. From the guys that I've talked to, the real advantage of this is it's a +2 armor mod, I believe, which is really good at the tech tier that you get it. So it's +2 armor, and then you also get to heal yourself if you do get damaged. So that's nice. Flesh Tears got buffed. Yeah, again, I guess so. This is the only other thing that is a technical nerf is adhesive artillery. Slowing stuff is extremely powerful in this game. So an AOE slow on a channel that you wouldn't be expecting to have to worry about for assembly because it was a bio inflict. I think this is fine. It's fine that this got nerfed. I personally am glad it got nerfed. And given the context of the rest of Assembly, it's great. So Assembly has very little to complain about. Devourer, on the other hand, got nerfed. It deserved it. Pretty much these lines here are the ones that really matter. A lot of the rest is kind of whatever, but these lines at the beginning have drastically changed Devourer. Trenchers, I mean, even by losing 10% or 15% accuracy, they're still the best T1 in the game, best Crow T1. I have no question. Like, I have no contesting that in my mind. I think they're clearly the best Crow T1 in the game. But this just makes them slightly less insane. Prospecting was broken. Getting the amount of energy that prospecting lets you get, and the time frame you could get it, just broke the game wide open. If people weren't so fixated on Coco and golfers, I think that Devourer would have been a much more concerning to certain groups of the certain multiplayer groups if they had ever tested it out. Because I've seen it and played against it a couple times, and Jesus. Prospectors were both nutty in combat, and then again, just the prospecting was giving players it's like 500 to 1,000 energy by turn 12 or something like that. don't have the numbers in front of me, but it's something nuts. So prospecting both in prospector in combat and prospecting out of combat both needed to get nerfed, and they did. Somehow there's like 15 lines about the Earth Crusher here, which I'll just say, hey, I'm not sure if I've ever played against one, but it's some hybrid short range super tanky linebacker unit that someone's gonna bring one once, and I'm gonna be really pissed about it. But sure, Tifos, they exist. I think this is actually backwards. I think it went from evasion to no evasion. I think. There's a couple of those that are backwards in here. I wonder if it's how they're building this list. That can happen. Otherwise, General Alert Protocol. That's the other one that really having all friendly units just be able to be a defense mode no matter what is broken. So at least now it's way more reasonable. And yeah, operate trenches went all the way up to 10. I missed that before when I was talking about that, but yeah. Again, the nerfs that were nerfed were necessary. The stuff that got buffed was all fine to get buffed, so net nerf definitely, but deserved. Kyoko, same thing. Obviously, clearly nerfed. Not necessarily, I think, in the way that people were expecting. I know it's not because there's been a lot of pushback on the official forum in the past couple days that Engulfers didn't get hit hard enough and, in fact, got some HP back. I would rather have... Well, I don't know, because there's been some really drastic tech changes here. There's been a lot of other changes to the game. I know that for the play-by-email guys, Engulfers were super good. I don't know if that with these changes are significant to the way that Kyoko have access to the mods, when they get access to those mods, and how they can combine those mods. I really don't know if Engulfers needed more change after Guiding Presence got changed, after Echo the Highline got changed, after some of these other mods are harder to get. It's going to get changed, and I'm okay if Engulfers are in the dumpster for a while. But I think I would have liked a little more experimentation on these changes without further Engulfer changes, just to see. Because there's really good stuff here. I mean, again, they got their hit points back, but Transcendence and Absorb Pain, I got nerfed. I know it's a side buff, so it's weird. You can reapply it, but being able to stagger it out is very useful. Again, Guiding Presence was stupid broken. It's not nearly as bad. Echo of the Hive Mind was super broken. It's significantly less bad. Not being able to stack all the not being able to stack regeneration and adoptive carapace, putting regeneration further down the tech tree, doubly so. It's both more expensive, and I think something got moved in front of it. Yeah, so I don't know. I know why people still think it's strong. I think a lot of it is just that's what people have been playing is just Kyoko and Golfers, and of course you're going to be good at it. It's what you've been playing. People haven't played anything else, so I would have liked to see maybe more testing on it, because I haven't got a game in with it yet on the current patch, like with Tyrannosaurus, because I don't play a lot of Kyoko, but I don't know. Like, all this stuff has gotten better. I would have liked to see it get played. Anyways, Kyoko got nerfed, like significantly nerfed. I still think they're probably the best race, because all their units are phenomenal. Even after this nerf, Transcendent is probably the best tier 2 support. The high impact on Hidden was totally not necessary. A lot of what makes Kyoko strong is just that side buffs are too good. And that they're built as a melee race that rarely uses melee. So all the stuff that they have given to them to make them survivable in melee gets used to make their ranged units more survivable in ranged, which becomes really broken really fast. But that's probably a discussion for a different day. Last time, Kyoko got nerfed. I think it was good. Moving on to Syndicate. Not a lot has changed for Syndicate. Really, once you take out the stuff that was kind of as they've done a pass on operations and probably doctrines, The rest of what changed here, like this is all operation stuff. These are really the only changes as far as units goes. Keen Sight was too good. They made it worse. The Zenith, whatever, is a tier 4. I'm never going to see it. I don't care. So really then the only changes are that they swapped a couple operations. They gave them healing on the world map. They removed psionic resistance as part of doing that for everybody. And that's about it, which I don't feel bad for Syndicate. Syndicate already started as a race with a very clear like design philosophy and a flavor. They worked very well for what they wanted to do. They have a lot of powerful options. The only real weakness the Syndicate had was the early game healing, or not having any healing in the early game, strategic map anyways. Really slowed down their clearing. They have a very strong late game. Their early game was glacial, like really awful. And so just by giving them that little bit of healing, and then I don't remember what these ops do off the top of my head, but I'm pretty sure that some of the swapping stuff is giving them like the flanking op a little earlier or something. I want to say I think that the few changes that are here have sped up their early game slightly, which is all they really needed. They were always a very good race that just had the flaw that they were a little vulnerable to an early push because their clearing was poor. And I think this probably fixed it. So short patch notes, and I don't have the exact stuff in front of me to really show you what I'm getting at here, but from what I've put in my side notes here, Keen Sight needed the nerf. Agile Overwatch is too good on a hero unit. But other than that, they've generally tweaked up the early game, and that's all I think they needed. So Syndicate, I think, got exactly what they wanted out of this patch. Vanguard, last not least. Interesting set of notes here. Most of this is all just unit tweaks, and in the bigger picture for the Vanguard, I think they net went up. Now, the reason I say I think and don't know is A, I don't play a ton of Vanguard, and B, the stuff that was really good about Vanguard got hit, and pretty hard. Laser Tank got hit. And Owl Spam, again, I'm pretty sure this is backwards. Owl Spam got hit. So some of the stuff that wasn't very good went down. On the flip side, engineers are great now. I did a really quick game just to test them out to see how targeting calibration felt, and that +1 range in any Vanguard unit, that's not just an engineer buff, that's a racial buff. It really opens up stuff across their roster. So that's huge. And then what was the other one? The Walker got buffed, which good luck. I love that this is a free action. It's still a super duper late artillery unit that has trouble scaling its artillery damage. I don't know, but again, it at least is a significant enough difference from the laser tank to consider it. Gunship got boosted a little bit. The drones got boosted a little bit. Drone carrier, yeah, sure, that's a tier 4. They can put reactive armor plating. It's a weird combination of stuff. They got hit in a couple places really bad, but they got a whole bunch of it back immediately just from that engineer change. And then combined with some of the other ways, getting veteran and everything means that their units are just always better than yours. I really feel like the net change for Vanguard is up on what they have, even if the things that people liked to use went down. So again, we'll find out. As far as kind of now that I'm end of the races, my overall summary, Devourer and Kiriko definitely got nerfed, and they needed it. Vanguard, a little bit more of a question mark. I think it went up. Amazons, again, I know Amazons went up overall, but the strong stuff didn't get stronger. It's just their weak stuff. So they're a better race. I don't know if any one tactic is any better. Assembly got buffed significantly. Syndicate got buffed a little bit. And that's about in line with what I would have wanted, I think. Pre-T-Rex, I would probably say that my number one race is Kiriko and Devourer are very close. Probably Kiriko is slightly better than Devourer, but it's extremely close. And then there was a really big gap before you got into your Amazon's Vanguard Syndicate. And then Assembly was another gap below that. And only because like Assembly is very powerful, but they struggled so much in the early game before their tech stuff could come online. And in accordance with that, as far as again the two I thought were way ahead got brought way back. The ones that were behind got pulled up. Some of the ones that were in the middle didn't change all that much. So the racial stuff was all good changes overall. Hopefully this next section will go quicker. I'm getting tired of talking, and I'm sure this is going extremely long. So Celestian, one of the weaker secret techs. Relatively short list of things, but they're very consequential. Lightbringers got brought up, which is good. They were kind of an underperforming secret tech tier 2. Some of these specific ones, not a huge deal. However, their mid-range mods all got boosted, which is good. Tenets of Pacifism, I think, is actually going to be kind of scary. We'll see. So Celestian buffed, probably needed it. Not a long list, but a good list, I think. Heriter, too good, very good. Got hit. Siphoners, so Siphoners and then Echo Walkers later on down the line too. They rebalanced all the secret tech tier 2s to be at the tier 3 tech. Yeah. Which I value all of the secret tech tier 2s around the same, or I figured I should have valued them all around the same, so putting them at the same tech tier I think is just obviously no duh. Devotion got nerfed. It needed it. It might still be too good. I'm not sure. They nerfed. Oh, this too happened in Celestian. The only thing from Celestian that got nerfed is the healing, but if 30 healing isn't enough, I don't know what more you want from, 2 op points, 1 op point. Heriter, same thing. They were better at healing than the actual healing secret tech, so kicking that down seems like a no-brainer. Otherwise, what else here? Quintessence attack got a little more useful, so you aren't never attacking with it. They did some mod changes here. I don't actually remember what Acolyte Incarnation did. Was that the one that you removed essence from a friendly unit to give it to yourself or something? Or was that whatever? Either way, some of the oddball mods that Heriter had that I don't think a lot of people used actually got buffed, but the big things that needed to get hit got hit. Siphoners got hit, so I still think Heriter is a very, very good secret tech. But a net nerf probably. Promethean, this is another one that it's a relatively short list, but I think it's a good list. Purifiers got boosted, which they kind of needed. I thought, again, they were slightly underperforming as a tier 2 secret tech unit. Plasmoids got nerfed, which, Plasmoid summon rush was a thing, so I can see the nerf. I think they're still a very good unit. I have no qualms with it. Phoenix Walkers finally get melee Overwatch, also good. So quiet changes overall, going up, I think, for Promethean. It looks like they didn't have a lot that they felt needed to happen. There's still some mod questions I have about Promethean, but as far as units, I think that they knocked it out of the park pretty well. Sinumbra, another big changes. The biggest changes of all the secret techs, obviously. New initiates, man. I love them. They're great. They used to just be crappy Malictors that you hoped you didn't have to build before you could actually get Malictors, but initiates, the new initiates are they're a unit in and of themselves. They kind of fit a mid-range linebacker sort of unit where they can play back a little bit, but what you really want to do is kind of just get him stuck in there, abuse your flanker, your single action attack, and then you have that self-heal when you get into real trouble. So, and then the extra point of armor. So I really like the new initiates. They're strong. They're good. They're very good. Um, and of course, Kiriko once again getting the best of everything, giving Kiriko access to a melee psi attack. That is nuts. I I won't complain about it until I've played against it. But man, oh man, is that's scary. The assembly initiates and assembly malictors, that's more of a bug fix than anything. Where them not having a corpse actually really hurts assembly. Assembly likes having corpses on the ground, so now they still spawn their echo, but you get the corpse too. Sadism replaced, yep, because you could get sadism all the ways. It didn't need to be a hero skill. The other change, which I know I was going to discuss in when I talked about morale, Broken Mind got twice as good. So even though fumbles overall got nerfed, Sinumber has more ways. Like it's better at tanking morale, and it's got a couple other ways to add fumble stuff. So I think net it's to the advantage of Sinumbra specifically. And because all this other quietly psionic stuff seems to have gone away as far as psionic resists. Sinumber had been a weak secret attack. I don't know now. I don't think so. Their damage output is nutty now. I mean, they always were kind of all they want to do is hit people really hard, but you can really hit people hard now, especially with Mark of the Dark Sun being 20% damage. That's great. I love it. Good changes, I think, for Sinumber. There's very little here that I would complain about. Maybe we'll see with more play, but Sinumber is cool. New Initiate is a great rework of that unit. Synthesis, not a ton going on with Synthesis. I consider them a very strong secret tech. Mostly for their mods, and in general, mods haven't been changed too much. I don't know if that's just because they didn't get to that in TUX, or if people haven't complained about mods enough. I'm not sure. Maybe stuff will be coming down sometime in the future as far as more looking at mods. But unit-wise, there wasn't a whole lot that was a real issue with Synthesis. I guess I always forget the name of the stupid support unit in the middle. It's very good. That reset stuff. So that one's a little busted, but they gave hackers some even more really cool variants. People always sleep on hackers. I really like them. I think hackers are one of the best secret tech T2s. All the variants are phenomenal, very flavorful, and push every synthesis combination to play very differently. These two new ones are no different. Getting scan catalog hackers and getting hackers that can give +1 range to all your units is really good. So Synthesis got that buff pretty solidly. Otherwise, for the most part, the changes that they've made generally seem like it's to make some of the stuff that was only good against machines be good against biological as well, which is good. Like even if I think Synthesis is very strong or borderline too strong, the fact that they had a lot of stuff that just would never be useful in many situations always feels sucky. So, in general, I think it's good that these changes have been made to broaden what Synthesis is effective against. So we'll see. I would maybe like to see a couple other changes with Synthesis, but the changes that they did make, I agree with. Voidtech. Voidtech is also an extremely good secret tech, probably the best. If not them, then Heriter. So they nerfed it. Except for the Syndicate Echo Walker, but well, Echo Walkers became more expensive, so this is still a very scary line to see. Rift Generators got hit pretty hard, which is good. Again, they hit the tech cost of everything in Void Tech. Even though Rift Generator is the same tech, the two preceding ones are more expensive, so it's net more expensive. So yeah, I think these are good changes. They also hit Void Barriers, which definitely needed to happen. Void Barriers just won people games. It's been banned in my personal games for quite a while. um, as a sideband. So again, Wojtek is another one that there's a few mods I think are very questionable in their power level, but again, the only mods that really seem to have been addressed are a couple of the really underperforming mods. They don't seem to have really tuned down anything that was that I consider to be too good. So if that's coming, that's great. I'm not going to complain from what they haven't made a change for, because the changes they've made have been phenomenal. So moving on. Xeno Plague. I saw a lot of discussion on Xeno Plague the first night of the patch release. I tested it a little bit, and I haven't seen a whole lot since then. And after I tested it, starting with a pustule is good. Starting with the ability to spawn pustules is also good. But what people haven't always seen is this slightly reduced the rate that new pustules are spawned. I think that's having more of an effect than that particular language might imply. I generally feel like I have roughly the same number of pustules I would have otherwise. Xeno Plague has other problems. Like they're extremely good at rushing. They're probably the best single secret tech at rushing. The problem is their late game is trash, and just because of the way the secret tech is designed, I don't know if there's a great way to fix that. The changes that have been made here haven't really affected the math too much, from what I can tell. I'm not a great rusher. That's not the way I like to play. So my experience with it is not going to be the be-all, end-all. But I would say that generally their pace of game has not changed all that significantly when compared to just the general other changes of the pace of game from economy changes. So Xeno is not going to suddenly become even more crazy good at rushing than it already is. I don't think. They did buff destroyers. Maybe that's going to change things. But really the thing with Xeno Plague is just their end game is so bad. And nothing of that's been changed here. So I don't know. The destroyer buff was necessary. Like, the destroyers were pretty much worse than pustules, just straight up. Now they're not. They're definitely not worse than pustules. As far as kind of a summary on the secret techs, the Xeno, I have listed as I'm not sure, because I'm not super sure. My limited testing is that they're about where they started at with the buff to destroyers. It could turn out that I'm just wrong, and a person that's better with them will say, no, they're definitely worse, they're definitely wrong. And if it's the right person, I'll believe them. So I have them as I'm not sure. Hero and Wojtek both got tweaked down. Synthesis technically got tweaked up, but not a whole ton. Celestian Sign Number definitely got tweaked up. And Promethean, I have as not changed, but no, they definitely got tweaked up because Purifiers got better. So again, with the secret techs, the focus looked to be more on units combined with this general rebalancing of operations across the board. Doesn't seem like a whole ton has been done on the mod front, except specifically in cases where those mods needed to get better to make the secret tech more competitive. So I generally feel like, again, as far as where I would have put the secret techs before, Hero and Wojtek are 1 and 2, pretty far out in front. Celestian and Sign Number would have been at the bottom, pretty far below. Somewhere in the middle of Xeno Plague, Synthesis, Promethean. That generally follows in line with where I feel all the nerfs and buffs have gone, that the good stuff got worse, the bad stuff got better. So, again, no complaints as far as the things that were changed. Maybe there's other stuff that could change. We'll see in the future. Again, given the pace that Triumph has been going at, when we do see whatever the next patch will be, I expect to see a whole bunch of really, really great stuff. And again, just kind of going on to my... Well, I'll have a couple. I want to pull out one last couple comments here. They fixed Jacopo. He's no longer going to be a free way to spawn, to mind control stuff. And then fire burst ammunition, again, I considered it super broken, that you could bypass 2-hit chances entirely in order to affect inflicts. It's still very scary because they gave it a damage buff, but they fixed the part that was super broken, so I can't be too mad. Proliferation, again, was also super bad, and they fixed that. So there are other changes. Again, I very obviously have not gone through line by line. It just would take forever. Hopefully, I've tried to pull out some of the more nuanced things that people wouldn't maybe have noticed otherwise, and kind of give a little bit of a summary. As far as my overall just general patch summary, Triumph is amazing. This patch is great. I think I said it once already in this video of there is almost nothing in this patch that they changed that I don't agree with or don't understand why they did it. Everything that was changed is either not a problem or clearly for the way better. They 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 really knocked it out of the park here. The economy change feels so good. They've done stuff in this update. I should say update because they want to say update. They've done stuff in this update that is, I mean, I would pay for some of the stuff that they've done here, and they're just giving it away. So thanks again to Triumph. I still think they're probably my candidate for best game developer. Fantastic update. There's always stuff that I would continue to say could maybe get changed from a multiplayer perspective, but from what they've been giving me here, man, I love them. So thanks very, very much to Triumph for the T-Rex update. I think it's great across the board, and for anybody that's put up with me for this long through the video, I appreciate it. If you have comments on anything, let me know. I love talking about this stuff, debating with people. I hope to put out a couple more videos in the future. Again, probably starting with revisiting some of my, what do you do the first 5 turns, talk about morale again, talk about city mechanics again, and then maybe go on from there. But again, if you've watched to this point, thank you. I appreciate it. And as always, enjoy Planetfall.